Back to your host, Jim Freed.
Now, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to my friends at the UF Bergstrom Center for Real Estate Studies, the Worthington College at UF for Business. Thank you so much for teeing me up and helping me get ready to face the world. I know you do with all the generations, and I'm always proud to help mentor them. Now let's bring on Jim McCarthy. Jim is my partner up in New York. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for agreeing to join us today. I know it's really a busy time for you as you prepare for Christmas and summer. We'll talk today about all the different real estate transactions that we've been doing, the real estate white papers we have available, and the different real estate ideas that we've had. Now, let's start with tokenization, Jim. We've talked about tokenization in the past with Yael and the guys from Invendium. So there's all kinds of building blocks that go into tokenization. Could you just give us a simple walkthrough about what the key terminology is?
Sure. The issue with tokenization is that it's mixed with currency trading, which is totally different. Tokenization uses the same blockchain, but it's basically a secure way of maintaining the documents. So the best way for real estate to think about it is that you're doing a syndication, but you're using the blockchain instead of a file cabinet for the documentation, and you're creating an instrument that can be traded on a exchange as opposed to having limited partnership shares, where if you want to sell them, you have to go out and go to a specialty company, and it can take you months. Whereas it's on an alternative exchange, you can go on, see if there's an offer to buy it, click it, and you're done.
Well, that was an alert that they're going to be doing a fire alarm test. So we'll try to do my parts between the fire alarm test. So, Jim, why is it?
The first time you have me on the show, you have a fire alarm. Okay.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. What can I tell you? I'm red hot. They've been here all day. Now they decide to do it. So, Jim, who is the type of person that would use this platform? And is it something that everybody should be using? Can everybody do this, or just certain types of folks?
Everybody can do it, and that's been one of the problems with it. There are a number of sites out there where they have, especially single-family homes, they market it as a non-negotiable fungible token NFT, and it's not really the case. In fact, the SEC is cracking down on people now. So it's really for the institutional investor, which is the person who's best able to use it, such as syndication. It's not something for somebody who just has a couple of dollars, wants to go out and put some money into something, because you're going into a real estate investment. You need to understand the real estate, you need to understand the risks, and it's a true investment, not just a game you're playing on the computer.
And what type of developers would be best suited for this? I know that we've been talking to a number of resort developers, some apartment folks, industrial. Those are a real wide variety of different development types, real estate operators. Who's best for this?
It's not really a best. Anyone who is doing fundraising, either institutionally or family and friends, anything where there's limited partnerships can be done this way. There's been a lot of interesting plays with resorts and hotels. One of the reasons we've been talking to them, because you can combine it with things like amenities, benefits, and memberships in the clubs and so on. But one of the differences of tokenization and regular syndication is that it's very flexible. You can define it any way you want. You can define it as ownership. You can define it as a participation in profits. You can define it as a participation in amenities, or you can do various types of tokens on the same property. So you've got a great deal of flexibility that's not there if you just do a traditional syndication. Lost the audio.
No, it was me. I was on mute just in case they exploded the fire alarm. When you're talking about defining, tell us exactly what you mean about defining there, because it's kind of a broad term when used in this regard.
Yeah, what happens is you set up what's called a smart contract on the blockchain. A smart contract controls what happens if certain events happen. So, for instance, if you had a smart contract that said that 10% of the profits goes to this token, and you sell the token to somebody else, the smart contract would automatically continue to distribute the 10%, but distribute it to the new owner. So,
yeah, smart contract, that's really a fancy term for code. It is a defined piece of legal documentation, but it's driven into code that kind of lives on the internet. And then you were talking about how downstream, it can direct different cash flows to different people definitively. I mean, that's where we were going with this, right?
Yeah, the smart contract can say whatever you want it to say. As Jim said, it's really taking a legal document and writing it into a computer language that's then baked into a block so nobody can fiddle with it. One of the keys of blockchains is that it's very, very difficult to change anything in a block once it's been written. And it has lots of alarm systems if somebody does change something. So it's very secure. It's not 100% secure, but it's very secure.
Now, there's lots of people that are out there making the tokens, creating the environment for the tokens. There's all kinds of different service providers. Does everybody need everybody, or can they just, how do they pick?
You don't need everybody, and how you pick depends upon who your audience is. A lot of the sites that are out there now are just somebody threw up a website, said, here's a piece of real estate, you want to own a piece of it. The SEC is pointing out that that's not legal, that they are securitizations and they have to follow securities law. You have to know your investors, you have to do anti-money laundering, you have to file documentations with the SEC or file while you don't have to file documents. So you have to do it right, otherwise you're going to be looking at legal problems. Then you have the question of, are you looking for your tokens to ultimately sold on the retail market or the institutional market? There are systems, players who provide more retail-oriented systems where it's more of a marketing thing and you can do it on a simpler level. Then there are the ones that are geared towards having institutional players. If you're going to have insurance companies or investment banks trade your tokens, then you need to do it in a system that they're used to. There is one of the players we deal with has a very simple system. It's very easy to work with. You can do that for small deals. Another system we use is very institutional, and you end up with something that looks like a Bloomberg trading terminal so that traders think that they're in the same environment, and you'll get better pricing from that.
So it really depends on the real estate, the sponsor, the audience. So this is why we've been working with helping people on a consulting basis to go through this process. We've got a number of clients right now that we're working with. And in fact, even some of the big national sites that look to do this have been reaching out to us to help them reconnect with some of the people that may have contacted them when it was still nascent, but really should be using them now as it matures. Should people be doing tokens right now, or should they fund up first and then do the tokens?
They should fund up first. Once you have the token, it goes on to what's called an alternative exchange. Well, the problem with that is the alternative exchanges are very small. There's not much activity on them. So if you issue your token, you may end up just owning a token. Congratulations, but you don't have any money. Eventually, probably in 6 to 12 months, the market will be big enough that you can issue directly onto the exchange. But at the moment, what we recommend to people is fund it first, set up the tokens as part of the process. It's a little additional cost, but you do it right from day one. And then down the road, you can convert to a token structure for additional tokens. Do multiple capital raises. You can do tranches. You can do the first tranche funded, second tranche tokens. But I would not say that anybody today go out and say, gee, I'm going to raise $10 million for a real estate deal by selling tokens. Probably not going to happen.
Well, listen, I'm going to leave it right there because they're really cranking away on the fire alarm thing. We're going to take a quick break. I'm sure that as soon as we're done with the break, they'll start broadcasting again on the fire alarm system. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the change in the capital stack. We could still get people all the way to 90, 91, 92%, but it's going to look different. We're going to talk about that right after the break. Mr. Mendoza, it's yours.